What is good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8count. In today's video we are going to be discussing Undisputed and the current direction that the game is heading in, as well as its current state. As always, guys, if there's something I missed, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below. If you do enjoy the video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, all that good shit. It's greatly appreciated. And let's talk about the game, because right now it's in a position where I'm not exactly happy, in my opinion anyway. You know, I think the game has definitely improved since its launch date, but as it stands right now, the game is extremely frustrating as well as not exactly enjoyable. In terms of the updates that we had, obviously the last update was on the 15th of March, but the one before that was on the 28th of February, I believe. You know, we've had some kind of big updates in terms of content and sort of gameplay changes. So the one on the 28th of Feb, obviously we got new fighters, whether it be Robin Reed, Lee McGregor and Sergio Martinez, and overall I was kind of happy with that. I think, you know, adding fighters to the game gradually is always going to be interesting, as it gives everyone, you know, a good amount of time to get used to every single fighter in the game. It was something kind of like a shiny toy though, in my opinion, going, hey, look at this, well, you know, this isn't great, but how about this? And you know, overall, I guess it was fine. In terms of some of the venues they added, you know, I was kind of happy with them. I thought the Grand Theatre in general was kind of cool. And I think when we get the daytime version of Colwell's Gym with an actual good, you know, ring camera, that will be fine as well. In terms of the Empire Pro venue, the daytime one, and the Techno Gym, personally, I wasn't big fans of them, as they were kind of, I guess you could say, a bit hard on the eye. The Techno Gym less so much. It was a bit dark in my opinion, but the outside gym, no, not the outside gym, the outside Empire Pro venue was just a bit off-putting. It was hard for me to focus on the fighters, as there seemed to be a lot going on. In terms of gameplay changes on that patch, you know, we had, you know, sort of new sort of push animations and improved responsiveness, and they made further tweaks to the judging system, whether that be, you know, the judges, what they're looking at and how they're scoring it. We also got, you know, the change of the fighters team walking in behind them. Probably one of the biggest sort of upgrades we got to the game was the introduce of the motion blur system in game, being able to knock it all off and stuff like that. Before there was a setting to sort of change it as you're launching the game, but obviously having it in game is a lot better. In terms of these changes, I think overall they're good. You know, if you do play offline at all, the clinch system is not exactly exciting. After, you know, there's talk about fighting in on the inside in the clinch and stuff like that. It's none of that. The push animation, I do actually enjoy actually using it offline, but once again, it's something we can't actually do online right now, which is kind of frustrating. The same with switch stance. It was actually activated for like an hour or two, switch stance, and that was kind of fun to use, especially with the likes of Terence Bud Crawford. But the way the game is right now, these things aren't really applicable online. In terms of some of the things they've actually been doing, they've been doing a lot of, sort of bug fixes, whether that be people getting stuck on loading screens, you seeing the sort of rating of your level or whatever being wrong after the game, and little stuff like that. We haven't really had too many sort of updates to the gameplay in which is actually meaningful, in my opinion. This latest update that we got was one of the ones which I was more anticipated to see about, and I've read the notes now, and overall I'd say it is heading in the right direction, but you know, we're still a mile away off, in my opinion. The increased base flash knockdown chance, you know, this sort of stuff is going to be good for the game. Right now, the vulnerability inside of the game isn't great. I still feel like you are, majority of the time, a juggernaut. And as long as if you don't stand on the inside too long after throwing your punches, you're pretty much fine. They've increased the chance of getting cuts and bruises. Personally, I didn't actually think there was a problem with this. The problem I had with the cuts and bruises occurring was it was always the same. It was always on outside of either of the eye, and it was always the eye swelling shut. We didn't have any cuts underneath the eye. We didn't have any bruising on the nose or swelling of the nose and stuff like this, or, swelling on one of the cheeks, and there was a lot of stuff that they could have done. I think earlier on in the game cycle, where we were getting sort of updates about the game before it released, there was an image of Scott Quigg which showed fighter damage and how it can change in a fight and in game. And we're not really getting that sort of sense of damage right now in terms of the gameplay. So that's something I'm kind of unhappy about. In terms to the increased damage to cuts and bruises, haven't really noticed this one too much. Let me know if you have in the comment section down below. This is one that, overall is going to give fighters more of an option to get people out of there if they can damage them early on in fights. But something I really haven't noticed. In terms of the increased stamina usage for power punches, not really a guy who throws a hell of a lot of power punches, in my opinion anyway. Maybe you guys would see the stats and think, oh, you do throw a lot. But I haven't really noticed this one either. I think overall the stamina system needs to be improved quite a lot. I think some of my problems around it are the short-term stamina. You can get into a situation and, you can throw a full punch combination and you can just be absolutely fucked from that in terms of the short term. But I feel like you should be able to do a little bit more in terms of short term. Whereas the short term damage is in a place where you're not really getting away with enough. The long term damage isn't kind of causing you any problems. The stamina long term in a fight, it's really not been changed too much since the game's come out, and people are still able to get away with throwing a ridiculous amount of punches. Something I would definitely be kind of, if I could talk to the guys working on the game, I'd be saying this is one of the main problems with the game right now. In terms of the increased damage dealt by hooks, I think that's important, but I feel like the damage system in general is kind of flawed. Right now, I feel like what you're trying to do is each sort of area on your opponent has a kind of a long term and a short term sort of damage, and the majority of the time what you're trying to do is get that short term damage down to a point where it hits 0, and then they're in a state where you can knock them down. And this isn't something I really agree with. I think, long term damage, yes, that should be important. Whether, he's damaged to the liver real bad, and, if you hit him with a couple more shots, he's definitely going to go down. That's fine in my opinion, but I'd like to see a bit more emphasis on what punches you're landing. Is the punch landing in a good area to actually affect your opponent? Are you hitting him on the forehead or are you hitting him on the chin? These sort of differences which actually would implement the sort of damage system. Right now, the damage system is in a place where, yes, if they increase damage dealt by hooks to the head and other punches, maybe it would improve, but right now I think the damage system is something which needs a lot of work. In terms of the block, they've changed the amount of damage dealt to it. It's here and there for me. It's not really something I notice too much. A lot of the time, if I do take a few shots on the block, I'm trying to get out of range immediately to let it recover, so it's not something I've noticed all too much. I think one of the things that they're doing right now is trying to focus on the cheaters and exploits which are happening inside of the game. But, we're getting the same sort of news, whether that be, it's coming, we're working on it, it's coming, which is fine. But that's what we're getting a lot of, that's kind of the answer to a lot of things that we're getting right now. Personally, on the official channels anyway, whether that be the YouTube or Twitter, we're getting, a lot of things like the top 5 knockouts of the week, or the Undisputed sort of show in which they showcase 2 content creators having a fight and Fanatico sort of commentating over the top of it. And I think overall these are good things for the game to have, an active sort of community and stuff like that. But I don't think it's the right place all time. I don't feel like this game is in a place where it kind of needs hyping up in that sort of sense. I think if the game was about to release on consoles, you've got all these sort of shows which are, gathering hype for the community. That'd be great. But right now, what I would prefer is a more in-depth sort of conversation with the community and the dev team, I think we've got that in the Discord, but we're not really getting the answers as a whole on terms of, them posting releases out on Twitter or stuff like that. I'd rather them say, look, the cheater situation is this, there are so many sort of exploits going on, we are working hard to fix this. We don't necessarily have a time in which this will be released, but we expect the execution for it to be done within the next sort of 2 months. And, same with other stuff like the lead body uppercut. That's been a problem in the game for quite a while now. I definitely think it's less of an issue than it was earlier on, but it's still prevalent in the game, which is disappointing. But I'd like them to come out and go, look, we know what the issue is. We are working on a fix. We expect it to be done in X amount of time. And even if they have to come out after that and say, look, the timeline which we gave you, it doesn't look like it's probably going to be it's going to be very likely we're going to be extending the period in which we believe that it's going to be coming out by. At least we kind of get a sort of knowledge on what is being done with the game. Right now we're getting updates which are coming out with little to no sort of I guess planning in terms of, hey guys, we expect an update to be coming out this week at some point, or anything like that. We're just kind of getting it at random, which is fine, but I'd just like a little bit of communication behind it. In terms of what they're doing with the boxing changes and what they're changing to some of the boxes in game, I think that's great. I think everyone would change certain things to some of the fighter stats, and especially now since we've got a blog in which it describes each single fighter stat, what it is. I think everyone can think of a few changes which they'd like to see. I think it's good that they continuously updating these fighters and changing their stats, and eventually when this game is in a place where it's out on consoles and real world fights are happening as this game is out, we're going to be able to see live updates to current fighters, which is going to be fun. But what I would say right now is, in terms of, we've got this blog, if you're not really kind of hardcore with the community and you're watching a lot of videos or staying up to date with the Twitter, you're not really going to know about this. We need to see this sort of stuff in game, whether it be sort of information sort of tabs where it's telling you how to use certain techniques, or it be telling you what certain things are. I think that'd be important to have in the game right now. And once again, you're going to have to go to external sort of sources to find out what these things are, which once again, I'd like to see a lot more emphasis on everything is in the game. But in terms of the gameplay right now, I'm not overall too fussed with it. I don't find myself craving that, oh, gotta hop on this. And we haven't had a boxing game in so long. That's kind of disappointing, right? Because I wanted this boxing game to be my main game. But right now, I just find myself not really finding the time to play it because it's not really that fun. And that would be one of my main takeaways. I think overall, we all want some sort of simulation of boxing. But as the game is right now, it's a little bit disappointing for me. Let me know how you're feeling about the game in the comment section down below, guys. It's always interesting to get your guys' thoughts, and I really do appreciate all the support you've been giving me on my past few videos. I do see it, and I want to say thank you. We will be back next week. I think what we've got to do is we've got to get our prediction out for the Garcia versus Tank fight. That is approaching very rapidly, and I definitely need to get my picks out for that one. And we will be back discussing Undisputed when we get some more sort of details on the game, whether it be updates or something else. But yes, guys, thank you for watching. I'd like to say take care until the next one. And peace out. See you soon.